of October, and we are here in the press room of the Parliament with Commissioner Hansen for the college readout. Commissioner.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this readout of the college meeting that we had today. So the Commission adopted today its work programme for 2026, as well as the report on simplification, implementation and enforcement of EU rules corresponding to 2025. And Commissioners Šefčovič and Dombrovskis will come to this press room after this press conference and once the debate in the plenary is over to give you the details on the different proposals. And we also adopted the strategy for generational renewal in agriculture, which I will present and take questions in a minute. But before that, I would like to draw your attention to two high-level appointments. The College has decided to appoint Despina Spanu as Deputy Director General in charge of the Directorate for Cybersecurity and Trust at the Directorate General for Communications, Networks, Content and Technology. And the College has also decided to appoint Beatriz Sanz Redrado as Deputy Director General in charge of Financial Rules, Controls and Reporting at the Directorate General for Budget. And the date of effect of these two appointments will be determined later, and you will find more information in the daily news, which will be published on the press corner shortly. Now turning to the file under my competence, which is the generational renewal strategy. I believe it is very important to underline that farming is still considered a calling more than just a job. It is indeed a passion, and it gives your life purpose. After all, without farmers, people would not fulfill their most basic need in life, which is eating. And you spend most of your day outside working with and in the nature, and you can run your own business as well. And for a lot of people who do not want to be stuck in an office with rigid hours, this sounds eventually like a dream. And yet, the number of farmers in the EU is going down. We cannot find enough young people interested enough to enter this profession. And we know that agriculture incomes are lower than in the rest of the society, and this is why we have a strong common agriculture policy. But setting up a farm with land, machines, seeds, etc., costs a huge amount of money, and banks are not very likely to give you a loan if you earn less than and your income is quite volatile. And in addition, we know that rural areas do not always provide the necessary infrastructures and services. And, for example, I met a young female farmer in Sweden who told me that in her region she has to choose between kids or cows. And I have to say what is, of course, the reason for that. And she tells me the next childcare facility is 1 hour of a drive away. And I think this is very obvious. If you have to go 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour back, and again the same procedure in the evening, this leads, of course, to an incompatibility between work life and family life, especially in this very demanding job. And this leads as well to the fact that only 12% of the EU farmers are below the age of 40 years, and that the average age of EU farmers is above 57 years of age. And this, of course, puts our food security at risk, and this puts the future as well of our rural areas at risk. And today, with our strategy for generational renewal, we are marking and making support for young and new farmers a political priority for our food security and for our rural areas. And we recognise that young farmers have specific challenges that need to be addressed as well with specific actions. And we will ask each member state to prepare a national strategy in their future budget plans to prepare for the next generation of farmers. And we expect these strategies to address the obstacles young farmers and young people face when starting the job. And we will expect regular reporting on their progress. On the Commission side, we will steer this process with the CAP recommendations. And where needed, we will also present specific recommendations in the context of the European semester on land policies, speculative acquisitions, succession laws, or pension schemes for farmers, for example. And I believe that generational renewal is not driven by the CAP and the EU level on its own, and we must therefore work at all levels and across all policies to make a difference there. And improving living conditions means as well prioritising infrastructure such as healthcare, education and critically high-speed internet. Making rural areas more appealing for young families is therefore an essential part of securing our agriculture future. And today we are stepping up our support for young farmers. In the next budget, we will recommend that Member States double their efforts to ensure generational renewal, especially in those Member States lagging behind. And Member States should dedicate at least 6% of their ring-fenced CAP envelope to support young and new farmers. And in the next CAP, young farmers will also benefit from a starter pack that will help them to set up their farm. And it will include support for setting up with the lump sums of up to 300,000 euros of investment aid, access to financial instruments, access to training and advice with CAP co-funding. And when you start, you need, of course, money and you need land. And we will also better target direct payments to make sure that young farmers are supported as they should. And we work closely with the European Investment Bank to explore the possibilities of guarantee schemes and interest rate subsidies. And easier access to finance is, of course, crucial here. And we will also launch a European Land Observatory to keep track of available land and prevent land speculation. And to make it easier for new entrants to start farming, this will be essential. And we also want to create a mentorship platform linking retiring farmers with aspiring farmers. And we all have much to learn from those who have been doing this job their whole life long. And speaking of learning, farmers will have access to Erasmus for young entrepreneurs. They can go abroad and learn from another farm or even from an entirely different sector with a view to diversify their business and maybe go into as well agritourism, for example, or tap into the potential of bioeconomy. And to improve the work-life balance for farmers who need as well from time to take a break because they are sick, they need to take care of a relative or simply want to go on holiday, we will co-fund the wages of the workers replacing them. And we call this farm relief services. Because currently in the agriculture sector we see as well that the issue of mental health is not sufficiently addressed, and we see as well that the suicide rate in this economic sector is amongst the highest of all economic sectors. And with everything we do, we want to make sure that those who want to get started know what help is as well available. And each country will set up a single entry point with all information on support and on training. Ladies and gentlemen, in my first youth dialogue in December last year, I met Anja, a young woman from Slovenia, who told me, if you manage to keep me and my brother in farming in 5 years, then you will have done a good job. So this is my mission order, I would say, and this is as well my compass for my action. I talked to Anja again just last Friday before presenting our strategy now today to you, and she is watching closely the markets, the prices, and how our society perceives farmers to make up her mind. And today, with our strategy, we state as well our ambition to double the share of new and young farmers in the EU from 12% currently to 24% in 2024. And I very much hope that Anja will be in the share, feeding us and knowing that we are grateful for her work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We can now take your questions. Like always, please say your name and the media outlet for which you work. I have a couple of hands raised from remote. Let's start with Lucia.
Hi there. Thanks very much for the presentation, Commissioner. I wanted to ask a question about the spending target of 6% and the target to have 24% of EU farmers, young and new farmers. I was wondering if you could clarify if the new farmers also have to be under 40, or if that is 24% of farmers under 40 or new entrants to the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. The 6% is, of course, based on the current 3% that we are spending for young farmers. That was set at a minimum during the last reform of the Common Agriculture Policy. So we want to double down on these efforts, and that is why the 6% are just normal to recommend this to the member states. We see that in practice we are already a little bit above the 3%. Currently we are at 3.5%, and that is why we believe that especially in those member states where we are still lagging behind, and there are huge differences from the member states, of course, as well due to certain national reforms that need to be done as well. Therefore, I believe as well that including this into and the reforms needed into the European semester is of crucial importance there as well to achieve the target, especially in those member states where we are lacking behind. On the target of the 24% till 2024, this is of course an objective. I know it is an ambitious objective, but it represents, for example, the amount of young farmers we currently have in Austria, the leader when it comes to young farmers, where we see exactly that a good blend of European support, but as well of national initiatives, the right education, the right support as well from the national level, is delivering a pension system that is attractive for older farmers to retire. So this is a whole package to get to this 24%. In this 24%, we also say we need people that feed Europe and that feed the world. So therefore we say the 24% should be young farmers and new farmers, and we know of course that there might be some that will be taking over at the age of 35 and that then maybe end up at the end of the term being 45. But this is of course what we want. We want to have young and new farmers. They are both that they are stronger in order to deliver for the food security. That shouldn't be taken for given.
Thank you. Let's continue from remote and then I'll come to the press room. Maria. Thanks. You need to press on speak. I'm not sure if there's an issue with the microphone.
No. Sorry, is that okay?
Yeah, now it works.
Thank you. Sorry, Maria Simon for Euractiv. You said you're doubling down on funding for young farmers, but you're making it an aspirational rather than a binding target. So how is that supposed to reassure young farmers? And then on measures like the farm relief services, how far can these actually go, considering that there are no additional funds for it? Because I understand they would be funded with the ring-fenced amount that is also for plenty of other measures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I maybe start with the second part of the question on the farm relief services. Indeed, in the proposed envelope that we currently have of ring-fenced amount of 300 billion, this is an absolute minimum, but of course the member states have the possibility to go above, because all of them will have flexibilities in their NRPP envelope, so the money for that is there. Also, when it comes to what extent can that be, I believe it is not meant that you can have 6 months, a year holiday, of course, but the reality shows that especially farms that are dealing with livestock, for example, they simply don't manage to get 1 week of holidays, and I think that is exactly what we need, that they can get a break and that this is covered as well. We see as well that when it comes to sick leave, often they don't take it because they can't. And this is, of course, creating an unvirtuous circle that we need to break, because this is, as I said, as well having a strong impact on mental health. Also, when it comes to taking care of a child, for example, when a child is sick, that is, of course, something that is very important. We take this often for granted, but on a farm, this is unfortunately not the case. And I believe that also it represents an opportunity for young farmers, in the sense that if you are not at the age maybe yet to take over a farm, this allows you as well, if you are replacing an active farmer on the farm during his holiday or sick leave, well, you learn a lot. And I think that is as well an opportunity that we need to give to the young farmers to gather the necessary experience there as well. On the 6%, it is very clear in our strategy that we adopted today that the Commission will recommend the 6% in the frame of the NRPP plans that the national governments will have to develop. And of course, you also know that the Commission will have to approve those. So we have a strong steering mechanism how to do this. And that is why I'm confident that we will deliver and have this more developed. I also see, as I mentioned, that already now we are standing at 3.5%, which is a good progress, that we are already above. But we see as well that in certain member states we are still too slow, and therefore there comes in again the European semester, where we will have new tools to encourage the member states to make the moves into the right direction.
Thank you. Let's come to the press room then, and then Mose from remote.
Thank you. Konrad Kramer from the Austrian newspaper Kurier. Thanks for the praise of Austria. Just to pinpoint it down one more time, which of these ideas will be based on the CAP and so therefore EU money, and which of these ideas are recommendations? And the second question, which is probably a consequence of that, with the CAP being fundamentally reformed and rescheduled with the new MFF, what will be left of all these plans? So what will be really enshrined in the new MFF so that we can give us a promise to young farmers?
Thank you. Of course, we know that if we want to better support the young farmers, if we want to give these relief services to all the farmers, we need to take the money from somewhere, because we know that it is unlikely that there will be way more money in the next MFF, even with the flexibilities that we currently see. But nonetheless, we have as well the principles of degressivity and capping of the payments, where, of course, we see as well that bigger farms have as well a certain economy of scale, and there, of course, if we manage to get this through, there is money available to cover for these services as well. This is very important. Then, of course, it will depend on the member states how they best design. And since you are coming from Austria, we know that the system is, of course, working very well in Austria. That is not meant to put in danger the well-functioning of the systems. So we will closely align to how it currently already works and encourage those who are lagging behind to follow the same path.
Thank you. As I said, let's go to Mose from remote and then back to the press room.
Yes, thank you very much, Ariana. Mose Applegard, Brussels Times. I would like to ask Commissioner Hansen, understand that this strategy on generational renewal agriculture is all about keeping and attracting young farmers in agriculture, yes? And then the question is asked, I suppose, can young farmers be seen as pioneers in agriculture? Are they more interested, let's say, to modernize agriculture and, for example, engage themselves in organic farming, in plant-based food, and also in greater respect for, let's say, animal welfare rules. The last thing I suppose would require the Commission to keep its promises to update EU's animal welfare regulation. What is your reply to that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Indeed, we have, of course, as I said, huge differences of age. We have as well in certain member states where half of the recipients of CAP money are above the age of 65. When you are 65 and you will have to restructure and modernize a farm, you will probably only do it if you already have a successor. There, of course, we see and we rely as well on the data by the European Investment Bank that there is a huge lack of investment in agriculture. This is partly due to the lack of predictability, but as well to the aging population of farmers. If you have maybe intend only to go for only more 5 years in the production, you will probably not go into big investments. And that is why this huge gap is there. In 2022, the EIB mentioned that there is a lack of 62 billion of investment in farming. And if you don't invest into the newest technologies, of course, you will be less productive and you will be less sustainable, and you will have as well have less quality of work, so the conditions of work. So this is very important, and therefore I believe you mentioned as well the organic farming. When we see at the statistics, especially young farmers are particularly interested in diversifying the production, either organic or going into sectors like plant-based nutrition for animals, but as well for us humans. And therefore, I believe also it is very important to give them the opportunity to see what is done in other countries, what is done in other regions, and what does the consumer ask. It doesn't make much sense to go into sectors where you see that the margin of profit is very, very low. So this is a combination where we really want to encourage, specifically on the organic farming. I'm not sure you followed the organic awards, that we had it publicly as well, where we said as well that I believe we should propose a minimum spending on organic farming when it comes to the recommendations to the member states in order to be able to achieve the objectives that are set.
Thank you. As I said, let's come to the press room and then we will take Arthur from remote. Go ahead.
Hi, Max Greda for Politico also. I wanted to check on the ongoing talks between you and EPP, in your case, Mr. Dorfman, regarding the MFF. I wanted to ask whether there's been any developments, what's the agreement we're heading to, and whether they're giving you any signs that perhaps in the end they'll just reject the national plans completely, as they've said they will.
I am, of course, talking to everybody, not only one political group or one single MEP. I'm talking to all the political groups. I think that is very important, not only to speak to the European Parliament, speak as well to the member states. And what I always say as well, and I said it very openly in the Council, this is not a sprint. It is the beginning of a marathon, and I want us to join the finish line all together. That is why we have constructive engagement, not only me, but as well my colleagues in the college, with all the political groups, but as well with the member states, in order to find solutions that will work for everybody.
Thank you. Arthur from remote.
Yes, hello. Arthur Bamas from Context. Thank you for this press conference. Commissioner, in your strategy you propose few binding targets and focus more on incentives and on the creation of 27 different national strategies. Can you maybe elaborate on why do you think that this is the best way to have more young farmers in the future? And maybe don't you think that this could create more disparities between member states? Thank you.
The aim of going granular, I think, is very important, and granular, you cannot do it by the same obligations for all the member states and for all the regions themselves, because they all face their very particular challenges. This might be linked to especially high land prices. I was recently in Malta, for example, which is the country with the highest land prices for agriculture. It will not be the same challenge in Malta than you will have in Estonia, for example. So it is very important that you have a specific look at the conditions in the different member states in order to make this. Nonetheless, I believe with the objectives of spending of the common agriculture policy, this is a steering mechanism. We can as well have a look at the specific national policies that need to be improved in order to get better access to finance, to get as well better access for the older farmers to a pension that is worth living as well for. So that is why we can't do this with only obligations, because a lot of the challenges are not solvable by the CAP policy, but need as well strong cooperation from national and regional level. I met this morning in a different setting with French wine producers and European wine producers, and they say as well that in different regions that this regional approach is very important as well when it comes to the generational renewal, because you will even in one single member state not be able to have a one-size-fits-all for all the regions and the specific challenges.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I do not see other hands raised, nor in the press room, nor from remote. Therefore, this brings us to the end of this press conference. Let me thank very much the Commissioner for having been here with us. There you go. We have a bit of a latecomer. We will still take the question if the Commissioner has a minute more. Andrea from remote, as last question of the day, I imagine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi, hello. Thank you so much for this press conference. I would like to ask you, how can you conquer young farmers who could lose everything in fire or in forest fires like it happens in Portugal, if the Commission accepts the creation of a European insurance system, because it's very difficult to take out the insurance for young farmers specifically, because some of them really lose everything every new summer with the forest fires. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, indeed, I have to say that we are not always prepared for all the crises, and we have currently an agriculture reserve of 450 million euros, which is not enough. You mentioned now, for example, the very catastrophic forest fires in Portugal. I visited in February this year the devastated area of Valencia, where a flood took place and a lot of people died, but as well entire agriculture production sites were entirely destroyed. And with this 450 million, we are not sufficiently armed. We are now proposing to double, and we call it now the Unity Safety Net in the frame of the next multi-annual financial framework, to double this amount to 900 million annually, which brings us to 6.3 billion over the entire period in order to be better prepared. But you are right, insurances is something that in some member states we have already very good systems that are working, but it is not sufficiently widely spread. We have the opportunity to co-finance them over the funds of the Common Agriculture Policy. Now, of course, we see that often insurance companies are not willing because there is a high risk, or respectively, they don't have the sufficient guarantees, but that is something we are currently working on. I think we need better insurance schemes because climate effects and drastic climate effects and impacts on the production are becoming ever more frequent. I think that is a thing that the farmers feel firsthand, and therefore insurance schemes will ever be more important to protect their production, but as well the reconstruction in the case of catastrophes like the one you mentioned.
Thank you. I try this again. I do not see other hands raised. Therefore, let me thank the Commissioner for having been here with us. Thanks to all of you for having participated, to the interpreters, like always, and the colleagues of the Parliament who assist us. We will be back in some 15 minutes with Commissioners Šefčovič and Dombrovskis on the Commission Work Programme and the report on simplification, implementation and enforcement. So do not go away. We just have a little break, and I'll see you soon. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.